All right, today we're going to cover the formations. This is going to be a longer lesson because I'm literally going to go through every formation that we use, other than like a couple gimmick trick plays or whatever. But we're going to cover everything. I'm going to do a whole other course on empty and the formations and plays that we like out of empty. So this is just going to be our 10, 11, 12, 20, 21, and 22 personnel. If you don't know what those are, that's one back, no tight end, one back, one tight end, one back, two tight ends, two back, no tight ends, two back, one tight end, and two back, two tight end. Okay. So you can teach your kids that lingo. We don't, because I don't see a reason to. I don't think they need to know it. I think they just know the formations and then how many backs and tight ends there are. But as a coach, you should know because those things like 10 personnel, you hear that come up quite a bit. So now you know if you didn't know. All right, let's go on to these formations. And the reason I'm doing another formation clinic is because the first one that I did was for the youth stuff, and it was much more simplified version of this. So this is what I actually use with my varsity football teams. So let's get into it. Okay, the first one we have here is spread. Spread is our base formation. Every single play in the offense can be ran out of spread. Okay, so everything that we install it in spread. If it's a two-back concept, you can still run it out of spread. You just run it and have a Q tag on it, so the quarterback is carrying the ball and the tailback knows he has the fullback's job on the play. And we'll get into all that later with the plays and stuff. My goal for this is just to kind of go over splits, which kids go where, things like that. So you have your Y and your X. I call them Y and X. Some programs call them both X's because they do the same thing. I like to be able to determine them one from the other on the board more so than anything, because we do go a lot of unbalanced stuff with our over tags and whatnot, and you'll see what I mean with that in a little bit here. Your H back is always going to line up on the left and spread. Your Z is always going to line up on the right and spread. Okay. The splits should be 17 yards from the ball for the outside receivers. So what we're saying is if the ball is dead smack in the middle of the field, okay, so here's a hash, here's a hash. We're saying that we want to be 17 yards from the ball on both sides. Okay, and there's reasons for all these things, and we'll go over that in a second. Which means that your splits are going to be your H and your Z are always going to split the distance between the outside receiver and the tackle. Okay, and we can adjust that a foot or two based off of the route they're running, but really we want these to be the same. Okay, so these little dashes, like in math class, mean that these lines are the same. Okay, and that's the same for both. So you got your distances the same for both the H and the Z. Okay, and so now let's say the ball, so what that means is when the ball is dead smack in the middle of the field, this outside receiver should be on the bottom of the numbers. Okay, so the numbers on the field, like the 20-yard line, the 30-yard line, the 40-yard line, they should be on the bottom. Okay, so lined up with the bottom of the numbers on both sides and not any wider than that. Okay, and the reason we do these things, the 17 yards and the bottom of the numbers and the landmarks like this, is because when you're throwing your quick game in this offense, that's a huge part of the offense. You want to make sure that the quarterback's throws are consistent, no matter whether you're on the distance of the throws are consistent. So whether you're on the left hash, the right hash, the middle of the field, it doesn't matter. You want to make your throws rep after rep after rep exactly the same. So he knows where his receivers are going to be without even looking in that direction. That way he can look off a safety and throw an out to the other side of the field. Like we can run two vertical routes in the middle of the field, look to safety to one hash and throw it to the other, because we know that when we run Pittsburgh, our H and our Z out of spread are going to be on the hashes. Okay, if they're not on the hashes, then I'm after my wide receiver coach because that's where they're supposed to be. Okay, on their landmarks. Okay, so the landmarks are very important for when they're lining up. All right, so let's just say, let me get rid of some of these here. Let's just say, now the ball is on the left hash, right? So if the ball's on the left hash, it's going to look like this, right? The widest your outside receiver should be is on the other hash, okay? And yes, that's right. That's 17 1/3 yards because it's if you split the football field into thirds, it'd be 17 1/3, right? So this same split from the ball to the outside receiver is still 17 yards, and that's both ways. So if this receiver is 17 yards from the hash, the max split that we're going to take is going to be 1 yard from the sideline. Okay, so this is still going to be 17 yards, but he's going to be 1 foot, he's going to be 1 yard from the sideline. And this we can change a little bit based off of what route he's running, right? So the play call is going to determine that a little bit, but we call that our max split. So our max split is 1 yard from the sideline. Okay. So, but either way, on a normal, maybe we're running the football or something the other way, or he's running a slant or whatever. Max split, we want to be 1 yard from the sideline, which in return, if you're 17 yards split, where you're going to be. All right. And then same thing the other way. So if the ball's on the right hash, your Y would be on the left hash, and your X would be max split to the other side. So pretty simple. Okay. So those are the splits. With our offensive line, we take 3-foot splits on everything. If they are pulling or trapping, we do allow them to take a yellow split instead of a green split. So we call our green splits our 3-foot splits, 1 yard. Our yellow splits are 2-foot splits. Red splits are 1-foot splits. And then we also have a shoe-to-shoe call. Okay, and we'll go over all that in the offensive line clinic. But for right now, that's all you need to know. So that the basis of the offense is we line up in spread, and when we install stuff, everything gets installed out of spread, and then you adjust from there. So when you start to install your two-back stuff, your tight end stuff, things that require those players, we're going to add those in after we teach it out of spread. So every single thing is going to get installed in spread first. Okay, the first tag that we have is our bunch tag. So if you'll notice, we're calling spread bunch here. And all bunch means is the multiple receiver side. Okay, so in this case, we're in spread, so both sides are multiple receiver sides. They're going to bunch their alignment. Okay, so what would you want to do this for? Well, all kinds of reasons. Maybe you want to throw speed outs to the inside receivers, or maybe you want to be able to run a certain running play against a front you get when you line up like this. You want the splits. So here's a really good reason. Let me just give you a very simple reason that comes up a lot. So okay, so let's talk about why we would line up and spread bunch. Let's say your defense, you're playing an even front team. You're going to force them to make a decision. Okay, so normally, let's just say we're in regular spread. So those receivers are out. You're going to get this look. This is what you're going to get. Pretty much every time, right? Now, if we line up like this, they have to make a decision. Okay, are they going to consider these guys? Are they going to consider your X and your Y tight ends? Are they going to consider your H or your Z tight ends? How are they going to line up? So now you're talking about getting a completely different look, and you can really gash a defense by using this. I mean, this is what makes the wing T, or the double wing, or all these different offenses. This is kind of what makes them work with their gaps, right? So is the defensive end to the shade side, because their rule is generally they're not going to want to have two gaps open, right? So they're probably going to do this to this side with your buck backer here, right? But over here, are they going to ghost this end and treat him as a tight end? Is that the look you're going to get? Or something like this, where they're going to jam this guy, bump your Sam in here, top him, put your corner here. So what kind of look are you going to get? And as you can see, you can create all kinds of gaps and problems with the defense when you line up like this. Not to mention, if you can also throw the ball out of this and you just got them in a one high safety look, okay? And if it's a 4-3 team, then you're talking a whole different can of worms. You know, are they going to take your safeties and play them like this? So you got a too high look, because now you can run the ball all day, right? These two right here usually don't want to tackle anybody, right? So again, you can create all kinds of problems by going bunch, but your bunch rule, so the rule for bunch is your multiple receiver side bunches down, and let's go through the splits here real quick. Your splits on this are 1 yard splits, okay? So the alignment's the same. Your H and your Z are going to line up on the outside receiver's back foot, so that doesn't change. So he's going to line up on his foot, and he's going to line up on his back foot, right? Okay, that's H and Z's front foot lines up on the X and Y's back foot. And the splits, so this split right here and this split right here is 1 yard. Okay. And why do we make these 1 yard? Because to a defensive line, remember, this is a 1 yard split, this is a 1 yard split, 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 1, 1. We are covering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards of the field just in splits. So not including the bodies between them, right? So what we're doing is making this so consistent across the board that now the defensive end comes to the ball and he really has to think. You know, this is something they got to scout and game plan for, which causes problems. But to us, it's nothing. It's a little tag that we put onto the play. Okay, so you got spread, bunch, and that's your bunch rules are the same for everything. So if you go trips right bunch or ace left bunch, the splits for the bunched side are 1 yard splits always, and we don't change them. Because the best thing you can do in football is say same as, right? The more things that you have that are the same as to the kids when you teach it to them, the easier it is for them to recall it when they need it and remember it. Okay, the next tag here we have is twist. So we got a bunch tag and a twist tag so far. Twist just means that the outside receivers and inside receivers switch their alignment. So if you notice, the X went there and the Z went there. The Y went there, the H went there. So that's all twist does. So I bet you can guess what the next one is going to be. That's right. Spread, twist, bunch. So what did we do? We twisted the receivers in their alignment and we bunched them. Okay. So when we bunched our receivers, they take 1 yard splits. And if you didn't get the look you wanted, when you went regular spread bunch, you can try going twist bunch and seeing if now that defensive end is going to treat him like the end of the line of scrimmage. Now are you going to get this look? Are you going to widen them out? Will you play them both as outside and maybe play 2-3s instead and don't even get a nose guard? So what does that do to your defense? Again, here's spread, twist, bunch. The next one here is stack. So our 3 tags, we have bunch, twist, and stack. Stack, and the picture here is a little off as far as the way it looks. The inside receiver is going to stack behind the outside receiver, okay? Or the inside receiver will stack behind the receiver next to him, okay? So in a spread look, there's only one other receiver, so they stack behind him, okay? And the way we want them to line up is we want the Z's, so really it should look like this. We want the Z's to split his outside shoulder. So we want to split the Z so half his body is behind the X and half of his body is not behind the X, right? So when we line up and spread stack, this can be really cool. Let me show you some of the reasons we do this. The first one is very simple. If we're in a regular spread look like this, you're probably going to get that, right? But what are you going to get out of your outside linebackers or your safeties if you line up all the way out here? What's the adjustment going to be? Is it going to be to do this? Because now we can run the ball all day, right? If that's your adjustment. You just created alleys for us. Not to mention, now we just made them light in the box, right? Okay, so lots of reasons to use spread stack. Okay, the next one, we're going to get into our first tight end look here. Ace right, so very simple. From spread, the only thing that's going to move is the X is going to go line up at tight end, right? So ace right, the X is going to line up at tight end. Ace left, the Y would line up at tight end, okay? So very simple, same splits. So he's going to take a 1 yard split, right, from the tackle. He's going to get in a 2-point stance, always, never in a 3-point stance. He sometimes will be stood up. That's we determine by the game plan for the week. Most of the time we put him in a 2-point stance though, so he looks like the end of the line of scrimmage. And it's really weird. Like some defensive coordinators will treat a stand-up tight end that's in the exact same spot on the field completely differently than they treat one that's in a 3-point stance or a two-point stance like the rest of the offensive line. So now your Z is the outside receiver. What should his split be? He should be 17 yards, right? So if the ball's on this hash, the left hash, the Z would be on the right hash, right? So all our split rules still apply. The most important thing you're going to do on the first day with your skill players is go out on the field and line up in different splits. Cover it on the board, go out on the field, line them up, put them in rows like every 15, 20 yards, and just move the ball from the left side of the field to the right side of the field and have the receivers adjust. Because if they are off by 2 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, that messes with your quarterback. And we want him to be consistent and have consistent looks every single snap. So there's your ace left look. So since we're ace to the left, the right side of the field's in spread, and we just see that, so same as, right? And then the left side of the field, we got our tight end. The H is 17 yards from the ball. So if the ball's on, let's say this time the ball is on the other hash, and now the X would be on the right hash, and he would be 1 to 3 yards from the sideline. Double ace, pretty self-explanatory. Double means what? 2. So now we have 2 tight ends. So we call this double ace. Very simple. 2 tight end look, 1 yard splits across the board. Outside receivers have 17 yards from the ball. Or the easier way to teach it is if the ball's on the left hash, the outside receiver's on the right hash, and vice versa. Ball's dead smack in the middle of the field. Both outside receivers are on the bottom of the numbers, and the inside receivers split the difference unless they're tight ends, right? Okay, next let's get into some trip stuff. So what changed from, remember, spread is the basis of the whole offense. So what changed from spread to trips right? The only thing that happened was our H back went and lined up on the right side of the field. Okay, so trips right, the H is going to go to the right. Trips left, the Z would go to the left. Okay, so same split rules, right? So let's just say the ball's on the, let's just go through all three of these because this is the first trips look we saw. So let's say the ball's on the left hash. It means your outside receiver is going to be on the right hash. He's not going to be standing over on the bottom of the numbers with a 400-yard, 34-yard split, which makes even a hitch a long throw for your quarterback, right? The reason there's multiple reasons we do this, but the other reason we want him only on the hash is so that we run out-breaking routes will be outside the corner, right? So right now, if the corner is here and we do something like this, okay, and go here, right, or whatever. Now, he's got all kinds of grass to win out here between the hash and the sideline that you're asking this corner to cover all by himself. If we line this X up on the bottom of the numbers, the corner is going to be out there on the bottom of the numbers, and then he has less grass, okay? So it makes sense. It gives us more room to win on the sidelines. Let's say we're in trips and the ball is on the, let's just say it's in the middle of the field. So something like this, okay? Your outside receiver would be on the bottom of the numbers. He would be on the bottom of the numbers, okay? And then you would have about, we tell them, obviously 5, 5, and 5 is not 17, but in our splits it is. So we tell them just to take about a 5-yard split just to make everything smooth across the board, right? And then they can bump those 1 yard one way or the other just to make sure that we get the room that we want in our play calls. Okay, and then the last look real quick, if the ball is on the, so if you want to go trips into the boundary, okay, which we do this a lot because we can get routes coming back across the field, or we can run the ball to the field to the single receiver side because they'll bump their back in to the boundary for whatever reason. Like there's lots of ways you can use it. But let's just say ball is on the right hash. Okay, that means that this outside receiver should be 1 to 3 yards from the sideline in a max split, right? That means this receiver is going to be on the other hash, and then we're going to be our splits, if that's 17 yards total, it's really going to cut the splits down between these three because you're running out of room, right? But this guy should be in a max split, so he should be 1 to 3 yards from the sideline, depending on what his route is. Probably 1 yard from the sideline because his trips into the boundary. That will give you more room for these splits to be even across the board, right? All right, and then we get into trips right bunch. So bunch, remember, is always the more times you can use this word or words that mean definitely when you're installing stuff with your kids, the better, because they don't have to second guess themselves like, what if it's this, what if this, what if this, then that, if this and then that. Those situations stink. You don't want those. You want to eliminate as many of those as you can in your football program. So this is another one of those alwayses. When we call bunch, it is always for the multiple receiver side, and they always take 1 yard splits, and the H and the Z always line their front foot up on the outside receivers, or the X's in this situations, back foot. Okay, so always, always, always. Okay, a little bit of new terminology here. We have 2 tags that we like with our tight ends that we use quite a bit. First one, get my color right here. My first one is tight, and the second one is over, okay? Tight means that the back side of whatever the formation is. So we were just in trips right? So if we're saying trips right tight, so okay, so let's just draw this up. Sorry, that's terrible. So if we're in trips right, we would have H, Z, X, and then the tight tag is for the backside receiver. So the tight tag is for the backside receiver, and these only apply to your split ends. So they don't apply to your H and your Z. So that's another one of those alwayses. So whichever side we're talking about, it's either the X or the Y. and they go and they line up at tight end. So a tight tag tells the backside split end to line up at tight end. Okay, very simple. The next situation that we'll see here is our over tag. Okay, over is how we go unbalanced in this offense without having to change our blocking schemes. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. So if we go, let's just say we're still in trips right. The over tag tells the backside split end, so this guy right here, that's where he'd be if we were in trips right. The over tag tells him he is going to line up over on the other side of the formation at tight end. Okay, so it'll look like this. Now, why do we do this? We do this to get leverage. Okay, so let's just say they're going to kick their front to the tight end. All right, let me use a different color. They're going to kick their front to the tight end, and maybe their solution to this alignment is to go like this. Okay, so they're going to have a corner out here. Remember, he usually doesn't want to tackle anybody. You're going to have your Buck, your Mike, your Sam is probably going to split those two. Your Free's probably going to be back here, right? And then you're either going to have a will linebacker or a safety, okay? And they're not going to know what to do. So let's just say that this is a will linebacker, we'll call him a safety, whatever. He's either going to line up there, or these two right here are going to get confused and not know where to line up, okay? That's what always happens, okay? Sometimes if the week before the coach saw it, they'll move him all the way over here, but he usually won't cross the middle of the field, okay? So he usually won't go past the midline. Now, we did have a team that decided that this was their solution, and this is actually funny because we absolutely gashed them when they did this. They thought they'd be cute, and they would put the will linebacker over here outside of the tight end, and we literally just ran and picked on this corner all day. Okay, so what other advantages does this give you? Let's just say, so that's not a good alignment to this front. So let's say you're in a sound defense, so probably like this would be the most sound thing to do. Okay, now you can run, what you did was you widened out your outside linebacker, so now we can run Seattle, or our buck sweep read play, okay? And we got all kinds of extra hats, right? We go pick on these guys, they can work to him. We got easy to the mic. We got extra hats everywhere. We're going to scoop him. Remember, we're reading him. Again, it's to create angles. It's to give you an unbalanced front without going unbalanced to your offensive line. So none of the rules changed for any of these guys, no matter what play we call out of this. These guys don't care where these guys are. We're using these guys to eliminate guys from the box, okay? To get guys away from the football. So you got your tight tag, your over tag. Okay, so there's trips right tight. So you got your tight end on the left side because it's opposite the formation call. So we called trips right. So these guys are in trips right, and he gets the tight tag. And this is honestly one of my favorite formations because 90% of the time you get this look. Or this look. So it's very predictable to see what the front's going to be, okay? And if you're playing a 4-4-4-3 team, I mean, most of the time, Most of the time it looks like this, and they put their Sam linebacker there, okay? And their will, or vice versa, whichever way the field is, their strength call goes, okay? So it makes things very clear, like we can run sweep at this all day. If their solution then, once we're running sweep, because we got that good angle to block down on him, and go here, if their solution to us doing that and kicking their butt with, and you can run sweep read a million different ways. You can run it with a jet, right? And hand it off to the H. You can run it with the tailback. You can run sweep read with the quarterback and lead, give the tailback the lead tag. So there's 3 ways right there you can run that out of this and give it 3 completely different looks. But let's just say they decide their solution is, okay, so let's say their genius solution is to widen him out and put him in there so that we can't run, or it clouds up our sweep. Okay, well, now we're going to run the ball here, right? Or we're going to run the ball here, or we're going to run the ball here. Not a problem. And by doing that, that means the corner's there. Your safety is going to have to be over here. So now look at all the green you have to the trips too. They're playing 3 over 3, sure, but we could also be running the ball that way, so they can't just put that will linebacker and only run responsibility, right? And I still like running at corners. I like running at corners all day too. So trips. Okay, and then you can have a mix of both. So you can go trips right, tight, bunch, right? And really when you signal it in, it would be, the bunch would be part of the trips right. So the signal we use for bunch is just we make a circle with 3 fingers up. So like you're holding up the number 3 to tell them they are bunched together. So 3 receivers bunched together, whatever. Bunch, that's the signal we use. You can use whatever you want. But trips right, tight, bunch. We got 1 yard splits by these guys, 1 yard split by that guy. Same as, consistent with all the rules we've already discussed. And then you can go trips right over. So we're in trips right, and the Y came over to be the tight end on the other side of the field to get our unbalanced look. You got trips left. Very simple. What changed from spread? Your Z that was here lines up on the other side of the field. Remember, the splits are 17 at the max, and then or 5, 5, and 5 out of those 3. Okay. And then we just got same thing other way. So trips left bunch. So there's your bunch out of trips left. Trips left tight, same thing. So your Z went over here from spread, and you have your tight tag. Trips left tight bunch. We talked about this out the other way. Same thing. So anytime you're on the left, the H will be the outside receiver, the Z will be the inside receiver. Anytime you're on the right, they flip-flop because this is his home place in spread, and the Z came from over here in spread. Okay, so what's your home side? These 2, it's the left. These 2, it's the right. Okay, trips left over, so we gave that X an over tag out of trips left. Okay, big right, so we have trips, big, and tray. Tell the X where to line up. Okay, so this is trips right, this is big right, this is tray right. Okay, so from outside in, trips, big, tray. Pretty simple to remember. They only affect one guy. Everybody else, the H and the Z aren't moving, right? So other than their splits a little bit. So when the big, remember we're calling the X and the Y are split ends. So when your big guys, your tight ends, your split ends, your wide receivers are in the middle, That's what we call big. And the reason we're doing that is because the big guy is in the middle. So there's your coaching point on how to install this. So big right, we got 5-yard split, 5-yard split, 5-yard split, or the outside guy should be 17. So if the ball's on the hash, the Z would be on the hash, right? And then he would be on the bottom of the, he would be yard to 3 yards from the sideline, and so on. And then we can tag all of these too. So big right bunch. These are 1-yard splits. We're just bunched up out of big. This is the way I like to run Seattle a lot. When you get a team that plays with a ghost 9 and they try to put their defensive end way outside or something stupid, if you line up in this, you made that block easier for him. Because remember, what's his rule on Seattle? To block down on the defensive end. Anything else, any other play, he blocks the outside linebacker. But when we're in Seattle or sweep read, he blocks down on the defensive end. So we do this a lot to get that look. Makes it easier for blocking. So what it'll end up looking like is he's going to go there, and then he's going to go block the Sam. He's going to go block the corner. So we got like a fold action out of the receivers too, right? Your fold action there out of the receivers. And then if they have, like, this is the front, the rest of Seattle would be like this. The rest of Seattle would be like that. And you'd have him going, scooping him. So like that formation a lot. That's one of my favorite formations. We use it all the time. And then big right stack. Remember, stack just tells the guy that was the inside receiver to stack behind the guy next to him. Same stack rules as we talked about earlier. Okay, big right tight. We're in big right. Big guy's in the middle. The only thing that changed is now we gave him a tight tag, right? So you can see how easy this is for the kids to remember. Very simple. As long as the X and Y know what tight and over mean, they're good. Big right tight bunch. Okay, so same as trips right tight bunch. The only difference is these guys are in big instead of trips, right? So you got your 1-yard splits, 1, 1, 1, same thing. Okay, if for whatever reason you want to do this, big right tight stack, you're in big right, tight, stack, right? And you know, we have lined up like this a couple times just to get the looks we want. The main reason we go stack is because we just want to widen out this linebacker. Whenever we're trying to run right here, we want to widen out that linebacker, or to make the blocking angles better, we'll go stack. It's not, has nothing to do with our passing game ever. Okay, it makes our routes different than what they normally look, so we don't really do it to pass. We're doing it to run the football. Now we will throw rocket and laser and screens out of this just to mix it up, but big right over, simple. So we're in big right with an over tag. Same thing, big right. So he's, and remember this H is actually splitting his midsection with his midsection, so he'd actually be like that. Okay, so we're in big, over, stack. Okay, then there's just regular old big left. So what changed? Our big guy's in the middle. Our Z came over from spread, and we're just in big left. Big guys in the middle. Big left bunch. Big guys in the middle. We're bunched. Okay, big left stack. So again, you know, you want your Z ideally lined up there. So his outside shoulder is down his midline. Okay, so big left stack. Okay, now we're in big left bunch, 1-yard splits, and tight. Okay, and the reason we say we do the tight first is because it kind of all goes in at the same time anyways. So big left tight bunch. So we're going big left tight is the formation, and then bunch is the tag for the receivers. Okay, so it affects more guys, so we do that one last. All right, this one, we got big left with a stack call and tight. Big left over, you're telling your split end opposite the play call. So here's your big left over to the other side of the formation. He is covered up and ineligible. This is to get your unbalanced look. Big left over stack. So your big left over stack. Okay, this is one of my favorite formations. So tray right, we have trips, big, tray. So trips, big, tray are the three that split ends need to remember. So they're going to play tight end on tray. Okay, I like this formation because it can give us leverage. We can still run combo routes with the two outside receivers and tag the number 3 receiver, which would be the split end. So, you know, ones that we like, I'm just going to give you an example. If we went tray right, Oakland, throw it, corner. Okay, tray right, Oakland, throw it, corner. So we'd have 8-yard arrow routes with a 10-yard corner route. He'd have a choice on the back. He'd give him a hand signal. He'd give the quarterback a hand signal. So this is a play call we like a lot. I like it with just a little flash fake play action. Okay, just give them time to get into their routes. We like running Seattle out of this, so blocking down on the end, pulling the two guys that are supposed to pull, whether it's the guard at the center or the tackle at the center. Okay, there's all kinds of things you can do out of tray. Okay, then we got tray right bunch. So we're in tray right with a bunch tag, right? So we got our 1-yard splits out of those three. This can give us leverage. It creates a situation where the corner probably has contain. Your safety's probably going to play over top of the tight end, and you're going to get an outside backer somewhere over here. Okay, so it gives us room to be able to run around things. And then tray left, obviously, you know, your split end is on the other side, so the left split end goes and plays tight end. So it'd be trips, big, and tray on that side. There's tray left bunch, so we got our little 1-yard splits here. Okay, here's another formation I like a lot. I like this for the fact that we can still run our combo routes and get our tray look over here, but it also gives us a 2 tight end set. So now we can kind of manipulate the defensive front. We can pick on which they decide to do. So most teams will not do this. They won't give you 2 wide 9 defensive ends. They're going to do it to one side or the other. So meaning if they give us an inside guy here, we can run Seattle this way. If they give us an inside guy here, we can run Seattle that way, right? You know, some teams will do it on both sides. They'll play 5s on both sides, and they'll just widen out the backers, right? So they'll put a guy there and a guy there, right? Okay, so just depends on what look you're looking for and whether they give it to you or not. And we'll also run, another thing we'll do if they do line up like this with him inside, we'll put the tailback here, which is just a backfield call. We'll get to that later. But we'll run Seattle to the motion guy and run our sweep read with an extra blocker, right? So there's all kinds of things you can do out of this. Tray right, tight bunch, tray right, bunch with a tight tag. Okay, same things, just the other way. Tray left, so we're in tray left with a tight call. Tray left bunch, so we're bunched, 1-yard splits with a tight tag. Twins right, okay, so the direction in our twin sets tell the Z where to go. Okay, so twins starts with a T. It's a 2-back set. So your H will go into the backfield, right? So he's going to go be your other back on this play, your fullback or whatever. It depends on what the concept is, but whatever you're doing, he's in the backfield, right? Your Z is going to line up to the direction. Okay, so if it's twins right, he's on the right. If it's twins left, he's on the left. Okay, this gives you all your 2-back runs. Then twins right bunch, so we're in twins to the right, right? The Z's on the right. We're bunched with these two, and we're in twins. Twins, 2 backs, okay? Stacked, twins right stack, very simple. Okay, twins left, the only thing that changed is, remember the Z gets the direction call, so he's gonna line up on the left side of the field now, right? So we got our twins to the left. Okay, so two backs, twins, T, twins, two backs. There's your twins to the left set. Then we're just bunch, so twins left bunch. Twins left stacked. They're stacked. Pro right tells our split end to the right to go line up at tight end, right? So pro right, and it's also a two-back set where the H goes and lines up in the backfield. Okay, this is, you know, your kids all play Madden and NCAA football and whatever else. They are well aware of the pro formation. They probably did it at the youth level. There's not many schools in the United States of America that don't line up in some sort of a pro set if they use a tight end. Now, there are some schools that are just wide open empty and throw it every play, and you know that's not what we're talking about. But most kids are familiar with what pro right and pro left are. So same as for us, pro right, pro left. Tight end on the right, two back set. Okay, pro right bunch, still tight end on the right. Now the Z is just going to bunch because he's on the multiple receiver side. Pro left, your split end on the left goes and plays tight end, no big deal. So pro left, now your Z's on the left, so same rules as twins. So pro and twins, your Z's have the same rule. Your Z goes to the direction call of the formation. Pro left bunch, they're just bunched. Pro right tight, so we're in pro to the right. The Z is on the right because it's pro right, and we are tight on the backside. Pro right tight bunch, so we're pro right bunched over here, and we're tight on the backside. Okay, pro left, so Z's on the left, tight ends on the left, tight. Pro left, tight. Okay, pro left tight bunch, so there's your tight tag, there's your pro left with a bunch. Okay, and the last two here are kind of like our short yardage. I don't want to say gimmick because it's something that can be very distracting to the defense because they don't know how to line up to it. We call it triples right and triples left because we have three backs. We have three backs and three wide receivers. So triples, plural, right? We have two sets of triples. Okay. Yes, this guy is covered up and ineligible. We are doing this to run the football. Okay. So what's your solution going to be? Are you going to do this and leave him over here as leverage? Because if so, we're going to take our three best players, our best running backs, and we're going to attack this corner that doesn't want to tackle anybody, right? We can also jet sweep out of this with lead blockers. There's all kinds of things you can do that are already installed within the offense because it doesn't change anything for the five guys that matter, right? They're going to block the same schemes. But now we got lots of play calls we can make out of this formation that kind of gives us an advantage personnel-wise. Okay, so we do use this a lot in goal line situations, whether it be to run in even just something simple like inside zone, outside zone. Like you still have to do something. What are you going to do with your leverage? Okay, are you gonna take? Let's say he's not in there. Are you going to take and put a will linebacker here and leaves a safety here because this guy's ineligible? Well, that's fine. If you give us this 2 over 3 look, we're going to throw a rocket and laser to this guy and block both these guys and go score touchdowns. Okay, so you can really mess with the defense in this. Okay, so it's a awkward formation, but if you practice it all the time, it's just another one of your formations. I mean, coaches, you wouldn't believe over the past however many years, you've heard coaches say, you know, all the gimmicks and those tricky colts or those tricky leopards or, you know, where, depending on where I was at the time, they would always make comments about all the tricks we do. Well, to us, it's not tricks because it's just part of our offense. We practice this stuff every single day. And I'm going to do a whole course on, you know, what all those things are. This is not one of them. You know, to a defense, it looks so awkward because nobody else does it. But that's why it's good for us to practice it every day because it is something they have no idea how to prepare for. there's not a whole lot of ways you can line up correctly in this defense or against this offensive set and be sound defensively. Like you're going to leave a gap somewhere. Okay, so that's why we like it. Okay, and then triples left, the only difference would be the X would be covered up, and then you got these two eligible if you want. So you can throw rocket and laser, you can run inside zone, outside zone, you can run your sweep. If they give you something goofy like this, you can still run Seattle too, right? So there's, again, that's all the formations, covered everything. We'll get into more of the details of what I like out of each formation, more so than what I did in this, once we get into the play calling stuff. So I'll cover way more of that in those courses. Okay. If you got, just like always, if you got any questions, put them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer those for you. And on to the next.